Hey guys, real quick before we get started, we're doing a free giveaway for listeners between now and September 5th. We will be giving one lucky winner free access to our live 8-week training program valued at $3,000. All you have to do to qualify is go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and drop us a 5-star review. Then send a screenshot to Jordan at thehideaways.co and we will select the lucky winner on September 5th. As always, we appreciate the support. Now let's jump into the show.
Like every time you lose money and gain money, the gaining money is really fun, but the losing money, those are lessons that you have to have. Like every single time you do something in any business, you have this lesson and now nobody gets to take that away from you. So it's not really a failure. It's not, I don't regret stuff like that. It's just, you just move on with it and you're like, oh, cool. Now I always know I have to check this very specific thing at every house I always buy.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Hideaway Show. I'm joined today by someone who quite possibly has some of the most contagious energy I have ever met. She's a real estate proprietor, podcast host, author, coach, coming to you. Well, she's in Wisconsin right now, but she is from what I qualify as the second best Midwest state in the country, Minnesota. I'm from Iowa. A little bit of background there. I've got Tanya Rooney joining us today. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And oh man, I didn't even think that we were going to bash each other about our states because you're not the number one Midwest state.
It's funny. I said before we hopped on here that I had a short stint up in Minnesota, and it was crazy to me how when I went up there, people in Minnesota were like, "Yeah, Iowa people have accents," and I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like when you go up to Minnesota, everyone's dragging out the O's and all that." So I was like,
It's
I
pretty
did I
bad up
didn't
here.
get it. No, I enjoyed Minnesota for a little bit of the time I was up there. Just didn't care for the traffic and mosquitoes. So we are back here in Iowa.
Well, fine. That's okay. But yeah, some people don't think we have an accent and some people don't. But you go up north Minnesota, it gets pretty long. Like there's a lot of O's.
Oh yeah, every time you just go a little bit further north, everyone goes north to the cabins in Minnesota. When you go up there, the O's really start to drag. So,
They
but
do.
anyways, so real quick, Tanya, for those people who don't know you, wouldn't mind if you gave a brief introduction and a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Tanya Rooney. Like you said, I have 5 short-term rentals in the Twin Cities in St. Paul and Minneapolis, and then we just started a motel project in Wisconsin. So that's at least the latest real estate specific. I have a podcast of my own called Tribe Builders, where I just focus on people in the real estate community and other business communities that just support each other through their tribe. And then I've been in real estate for about 15 years now, which is really weird to say because I'm
Awesome.
only, 20 years old or something. I think that's probably not a joke that I'm going to keep going with, but so
Started
I've
when
been
you're
in real
5.
estate
That's
for
impressive.
yeah. So I've been in real estate for quite a while. I started out in commercial real estate, working for a really big company, decided that I didn't necessarily want to be attached to corporations and clients and things like that. So I hopped over into residential real estate by flipping for a few years. And then I got into short-term rentals accidentally when we couldn't sell one of our houses. And honestly, it's been super, super fun ever since. Like I'm really excited to be in this space.
That's awesome. So I did do a little bit of creeping and looked at some of your properties in Minnesota, and I will say the one thing that stood out to me, and we focus primarily on unique and experiential stays. I was going through your site, yay, you're here, which by the way, I absolutely love that. But I went on there and noticed that you had like a concierge service where you're providing like charcuterie boards and chip dip trays.
Mhm.
I told my wife this morning, I'm like, oh my, like I know right away if we stayed at one of your properties, my wife would be like, and charcuterie board. We're booking it. So how did you come up
Yeah.
with that? And is it actually a pretty big hit with the properties up there?
So we came up with it because I have a friend in Scottsdale that does a lot of bachelorette houses, and they do concierge service. They do like a stock the fridge. They do a salsa board because I don't know, that's what you do in Arizona, I guess. And so I just figured out a way to spin it in the Minnesota way. So we even have Minnesota stuff like we call it a Minnesota chip and dip board because literally Minnesotans dip everything in sour cream or different variations of sour cream. So we have stuff like that. that, you can get a pan of bars, which is hilarious because people from the Midwest do not know what I'm talking about. But in Minnesota and like at least the area, everybody brings a pan of bars to something. Like I grew up in a small town, and that's what you do when you're supporting each other is you bring a pan of bars, which means it's like a pan of Rice Krispie bars or a pan of brownies. So we put that kind of stuff on there just so that people can see, like, I mean, some of the Minnesota nice that comes out. We put that on a couple of years ago. We've probably only had a handful of it. We get more comments on it that people don't even like, they don't necessarily use it, but they still comment on it. My husband makes a really mean Bloody Mary, so we'll do like
I
a
saw
Bloody
that.
Mary bar setup. Yeah, and that one, we've done that one probably more than anything. So I think it's just about like telling your guests like you could do this. We might not sell it a lot, but it being there ready for somebody, like when somebody does remember and they want the fridge stocked before they get there, it's absolutely fantastic. Like now that I travel, I literally ask hosts all the time, I'm like, can you guys do like a stock the fridge? Can you pick up groceries? Because I realize once I go on a trip, like I'm only there for 3 days and I might be there with 10 people. And I'm like, I don't want to go. I love grocery shopping. It's actually one of my favorite things to do when I'm traveling is go to different grocery stores because you can
Really?
find out so much about, well, yeah, I don't know if you've ever been to, like, I'm a Costco person. So
I love
Costco,
Costco.
Minnesota, you will find specific Costco things, or I mean specific Minnesota things. And if you go in Hawaii, you can get like so many macadamia nuts, but you can't do that in Minnesota. And then we went to one in Louisiana recently, and you can get like 4 gallons of Old Bay seasoning. And in Minnesota,
Wow.
you would only buy that at the grocery store, and it would be 3 ounces, maybe 5 ounces. But in Louisiana, it's like gallons of Old Bay because they do things differently. So it's funny because I love going to grocery stores that are local and stuff because then you really do get to see the feel of like, there's why are there so many hot sauces? Well, it's because you're in Louisiana, but in Minnesota we have, fish fry, which some people don't know what the heck I'm talking about. You would because you're from
I
Iowa.
do.
Yeah. So I think that's like one of my favorite things about traveling. But when I'm traveling with a big group, I don't want to go and spend 3 hours at a grocery store like running all those errands. So I think like just providing stuff like that or just telling guests that it's there if you need it. I think that's one of the cool things about hospitality is you can say like, hey, can we make this a little bit easier on you? Like here's, we can stock the fridge with beer or like we can stock it with this. And, so just like random little hospitality bits here and there.
Yeah, no, that's smart, and it's we actually stayed at a place in Kansas City. I think it was about a year ago, and the concept was perfect. We booked, and the host actually reached out to me and was like, "Hey, prior to your stay, is there anything that we can get you guys? Like any snacks, any drinks, anything you want to, have us leave out?" And I was like, I've never been asked that before as a guest. And I'm like, that's really like, it's really smart and it's really simple, especially if you have someone to be able to go do it for you. Or if you're local, you can go and do it yourself. But if you have someone to be able to go do it for you, it's such a simple thing to do. Now, I do know some people are on the fence of like, do you leave snacks out for people? Do you not? Do some people have a peanut allergy and you leave out a bag of almonds? Like, does that present challenges? But I think how they went about it and how they asked, like, it was just, it set that first impression when we got there, and on
Mm-hmm.
top of that, they had like all the lights on, the temp in the house was perfect. And it's everything that we preach. It's that first impression from the moment the guest rolls up to your property, they grab the door, they go in. If you can wow them, it's almost like social media. In the first 3 seconds, if you can just wow them, you've essentially got
Mm-hmm.
them hooked for the rest of the stay. And I couldn't have been more pleased with that property. I was telling everyone, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this place in Kansas City wasn't, they probably could optimize their pricing a little bit, but it was just like, it wasn't that expensive, and they went up and beyond. And it's little things like that that'll carry you forward as a host and allow you to optimize and maximize your revenue and ultimately get those 5-star reviews. So I love it.
Yeah, and actually, I think that's the whole entire point about like what hosting can be fun is you can like it's these tiny little things that you can do that make that big difference. And you're going to talk about that for a long time. And you know what? Everybody that stays there, they talk about it too. And like you talk about it because you're a host, you understand. So you're extra excited. But when somebody else has never experienced that, they're going to do the same. Like I've got a buddy in Texas, and his story is one of my favorites. And I always say, gosh, I really want to do that, but I don't know how to like manage it with, the amount of properties we have or whatever. He calls and says, hey, breakfast is on me day one. Let me know what you want. And he, literally he'll do suggestions. So they essentially do like a waffle bar. So
Oh,
they like
nice.
confirm if they're gluten free or not. They confirm if they want fruit. And then and then they send it I think they just send it through Instacart, so it shows up the first morning or even the evening before, so that people can literally have breakfast, like orange juice, eggs, whatever it is. And he's like, honestly, it's negligible. It's $25 a stay, and they're actually very specific to families. So you think about like a mom getting like, if you guys are traveling with your kids and you get to a house and it's 10 o'clock at night and you're like, shoot, we don't have any cereal for the morning, but we do have kids that we have to worry about. Maybe you already packed all that stuff anyways, but somebody has to go to a store. So he like minimizes all of that, like hassle, by just giving the first day. He's like, I want to buy you guys breakfast. Like, let me know. Like that's, and it doesn't take that much. When you think about it, if you're charging four or $500,000 a night, that is not a lot of skin off your back to be like, hey, it's Instacart. Like, who cares? It's $25, $30. Like, it's amazing what you can do to wow people.
Exactly. And if you look at it from the perspective of with that $25, right, you invest that to provide an experience for your guests when they arrive at your property. That could result in someone else booking your property because they mentioned to someone, they're like, oh my gosh, these people went up
Yeah.
and beyond, and I couldn't recommend this place more. Or that guest comes and books again, maybe in 6 months or in a year's time frame. That $25 will pay for itself over and over again, especially if you deliver on that quality and that experience level. So I absolutely love
Yep.
that. We partnered with two local companies in Kentucky for our properties, and we leave out two Ale 8s, which I had never heard of Ale 8 before. If you go to Kentucky, Ale 8 is everywhere. I've never heard of it before,
What
but
is it?
it's
Is it
like
like a
it's
beer?
it's like a soft drink. We've actually had a couple guests. They're like, we put in our messaging that we leave them out, and the people message us and they're like, hey, I just want to let you know we've been sober for 2 years, so don't we would appreciate if you don't put those out. And we're like, oh, more than happy not to put them out, but just an FYI, they are just
It's
non-alcoholics.
soda.
It's just soda. And she's like, oh, well, on that note, you can leave them out. That'd be great. So, but it's little
That's
things like
awesome.
that to where you can even go partner with some of these companies to where you're marketing their
Mhm.
product for you in exchange for something else, right? So we do that with the ale
Yeah,
eights, and then a bag of coffee that's specific to the Red River Gorge. It really kind of plays into the theme in the market that we're in. So a lot of different
awesome.
things you can do with that. So
Yeah, it's super cool.
yeah. So you also mentioned that you have correct me if I'm wrong, motel or hotel. I know there's a difference. One letter makes a difference in that
It
statement.
does. Yes, we have a motel. So that means the doors are on the outside. It's just like a roadside motel in a
Yep.
cute little town like in Wisconsin. It's like a cabin town where a lot of people from the Twin Cities come up here. They hang out on the lake. We get a lot of overages. We get a lot of fishermen. We get like girls coming to town to experience the downtown. There's a brewery, like that kind of stuff.
Nice. Nice. So with that
Mhm.
motel, what are your plans with it? Are you going this boutique hotel route, which is very popular today? Are you going and renovating it and then doing like a refinance on it, or what's your strategy there?
So we're still working through the partnership. It's interesting because this deal we almost bought last year. We almost bought it solo, and then just lots of things came up enough that we couldn't make the deal work. So we decided to walk away. Last fall, and we worked on it for 3 months. So, like, it was like, as in, we tried to work on the deal itself for 3 months to make it work, and it just didn't. So I walked away. So then this spring, one of the owners, there was a partnership, and one of the owners called me and said, hey, I'm going to try to buy out the other partner. Would you like to come in and help me out with this, and come in as a partner? And I said, yeah, absolutely, that's cool. So I've been here since May. We have been redoing it. I don't know what like the refinance situation looks like right now. I'm actually working on figuring out how we could do banking a little bit different, and maybe get it to be a solo deal. So there's like
Nice.
a lot of things happening like right now about that, so I'm not sure. Otherwise, our initial plan, and right now what we're functioning on, is we're going to sell in 2 to 3 years. So I came in earlier this summer, and we redid rooms. And when we redid, I mean, we're trying to do stuff on a pretty small budget at the moment. So we're just trying to get like good guests to come in. So we went in and did smaller rehab. So we might have, I like hate to even call it a rehab sometimes, because some rooms were doing more, but we went in, made sure everything worked. That was a really big thing, that we had to make sure like
Seems
every single
crucial.
outlet worked, and just kind of like cleaned things up. We we made sure every bathroom had an outlet, for the gals that want to do their hair, like that kind of stuff. And then we put in new mirrors, we put in new light fixtures, we did some painting in some spots. A lot of the rooms got wallpaper. We rebranded the whole entire thing, so it was called the Outdoors Inn. So there was a lot of plaid and fish. Well, buffalo plaid specifically, because now I'm going to say, like, we went and put in more plaid because we renamed it to the Lumberjill Lodge. So the whole entire theme is the Lumberjills, which were women in the World War II-ish or something that had to take over a lot of the logging industry when people were fighting in wars.
Oh,
So
wow.
there are some super badass human beings, women specifically, that did a lot of really cool things. So that was our theme. So like we have log pillows. We have pictures of
Oh,
women
wow.
on the walls that are like, they're sharpening their saws, or they're, drinking coffee next to all kinds of logs, because literally that's what they were doing. So we rethemed like that, and we cleaned a lot of things up. We got some process, like we went heavy on process and operations, and like for the cleaning team, because mainly when we bought it, I just looked through all of the reviews the last 2 years. And those are the things that we went in on first. And we're like, okay, some of the outlets don't work. We need to make sure every single one of those work. We went through all of the systems, so the AC units and the heat and things like that. So that's what we've been concentrating on now. We started, like, we rebranded everything. We're getting bookings in. We're going into slow season right now, or at least a shoulder season of some kind, and trying to figure out what does that look like. So yeah,
That's
it's been really it's been a lot of learning. It's been really, really fun though. It's been pretty exciting to see the changes we've made, and then the reviews that come in that are 5 stars. Oh, those are like, probably, especially when you just first start out on something, you're just like, I need somebody to give me some kind of validation.
Yep.
And every time we get a 5 star, honestly, like, I think any anxiety I have just like plummets that right when that happens, when it hits my mailbox.
Yep. It's just proof that what you're doing is working, and like you said, it's
Yeah.
that validation. So that's
Mhm.
fantastic. And remind me again, how many rooms was it?
It's an 18 unit motel, and
Okay.
we have 10 units up and running. There are certain units that, one of our buildings has 4 up, 4 down. Well, the 4 down, they have a basementy smell. So we're trying to figure out, we're literally going room to room, trying to figure out, okay, how do we manage this? And it's about managing the expectations of the people coming in. So, and I know that if that's a really glaring thing, that's what's going to end up in our reviews. So we're trying to, go room to room, see what we can do. Right now, the 10 is totally fine. There's only been probably 2 weekends that we've really needed more at the moment, but by the next spring, we'll have all of them up and going, or maybe like 16 of them.
Oh, nice. So for people booking, is it just direct, like a direct booking site, or do you also have them on Airbnb as well?
So we have them on Airbnb.
Oh,
This
nice.
is a very interesting thing, the transition. So a lot of people, I mean, there's all kinds of short-term rental people. Like, I mean, obviously me and you are even different. Like, you do really cute little unique stays. I do like big houses. Like honestly, we have a house that fits 18. And I
Wow.
love that, because that's like the spirit of me. Like, I'm just like, why aren't there more houses for me and my girls to go and hang out at? Like, I want there to be 12 of us in this house, and there's not a lot of houses you can do that in. So that's why that's the role that I'm filling, because that's what I like, and that's who I like to host. So when it comes to this moving over though to like from short-term rental to boutique motel, I think it's really buzzy right now. Like, a lot of people, like, I could probably go and ask 15 different hosts, and I bet at least 3/4 of them would say, yeah, I totally want to do a boutique hotel someday, or motel, or whatever it is. So it's really buzzy, but it's a really big difference. And there's a lot of things that are the same, but this motel, like, people just drive up and they're like, hey, I want a room. Short-term rentals don't have that. Like, it is
Wow. That's
it is
cool.
so mind-blowing how many people just drive up. They just want to chat, they want to call, they want to see, they want to know how much it is a night. They want to justify in their head, is that way too expensive, this person gouging me? There's so many different, like, the avatar itself is different because of that. It's just a different mentality. And then operations is a little different too, because how we get people in. Like, you asked about Airbnb. So we're on Airbnb. We just got on booking.com, because booking.com is actually one of the places that most motels and hotels get business.
Yep.
And then most of it's direct. Like I have a direct booking business in the Twin Cities, but it is, I mean, 5 to 10% of our bookings all year are direct. And you come up here and we are 80% direct bookings. Like people walk
Wow.
by, people drive by, people find us on Google. Like, I mean, it's completely different. So it's me right now, like learning the two differences and then meshing them together. And once we get our operations just smoothed out, which is literally happening right now, once those get smoothed out, I understand why some of my mentors say short-term rentals are awesome, but take the short-term rental money and put it into a motel. And like, if you can get operations down in a motel, I already see that it's going to be a lot easier. It's a lot more efficient, but it's a completely different business.
That is
And yeah.
insane about the driving by. So I have a question on
Uh-huh.
that. So do you have on-site staff then that someone can go to the front
S-
desk and talk to someone?
So, that is something that, man, we go back and forth all the time. We don't, because we do not have, like, we have these 18 units. We only have 10 rooms open, ready to go. They're booking right now. We do not have enough business to justify having somebody sit here the whole entire time. So, but maybe next year I'm going to say, okay, maybe next summer, the whole entire summer, we're going to have somebody sit here. And then it's learning how do you pay that person? Because you're literally paying somebody for 24/7. Like
Yep.
last night specifically, this hasn't happened very often, or I've never seen it. We've been living up here because we're redoing things. There's no reason for us to go home. We might as well just live here. Well, there was a man outside at 10 o'clock and he's like, hey, I need a room. And he shouldn't have been driving. So he did need a room. So we gave him room. Totally fine. Like he paid all of that good stuff. But
Mhm.
that is that's like just it's just a really big difference on how how this works. And he was walking around looking for an office, and I'm kind of like, well, so if we have to hire somebody to do that, it's like a 24/7 job. Like, I mean, you're a business
Right.
owner, you already know this. Anybody listening that's a business owner, you have a 24/7 job. Like, this is that's what business ownership is. We do not have to work as much sometimes, but we still have to be on. Like, it doesn't matter if we're on vacation, we're still working. Like, that's some people have awesome teams. It's totally cool. I've been able to check out completely a few times since I started my businesses, but reality is this. So like, how do you pay somebody? How do you tell somebody, hey, you're like on 24/7, 6 days a week, we'll give you like one day off? Like, how do you, yeah, like as a business owner, I'm always like, oh my God, how do I calculate how much money I give somebody for something like that?
Yep.
So we're trying to figure out, like, what does that look like? We also don't have like a sufficient T12, which means like the trailing 12 months, like all the money that comes in every single month. When you're in commercial, this is how people sell commercial assets: is they say this is how much money it can make, or this is how much money it did make last year. And banks actually take that into consideration when they're lending money, because that's it's different from short-term rentals, because the valuation, like, that's just a piece of real estate with a business in it, and in this, the business is the piece of real estate. So that's been really hard, because I can't tell you how much business I'm going to get this fall. I have no idea, because I don't know. And then last year in the Midwest, we had like 3 snows in Minnesota and Wisconsin that like needed plowing. That is a
Which is
huge
crazy.
deal.
Yeah.
Yes, this is like, okay, this is like unprecedented. Well, if there's no snow, that means there's no snowmobilers. And if it's not warm enough, or if it's too warm to
Oh,
snow,
true.
that also means there's no ice. And us crazy people in Minnesota drive out onto our lakes in the wintertime, drill a hole in the 4 to 5 feet of ice that's in there, and fish. Like, that's truly a thing. People don't know about ice fishing either. Like, this is such a Midwestern call right
I'm
now.
glad we can relate. I'm glad we can relate.
I know, but if there's no, if there's no ice, people aren't coming up here. Like, why on earth would they come to a sleepy cabin town if there's no ice for them to fish on? Like, those are the reasons
Right.
people come. So it's really hard. I've got all these variables that I'm trying to figure out, and honestly, at this point, we have to guess, because we don't know. We don't have data. Um, and we don't have meeting rooms or anything like that. So it's not like I can say, "Oh,
Oh,
come have your
true.
meeting here." Like, it's just some rooms. So we're trying to figure out what that needs to look like, and just learning all of the things that go with this, so that we can make decisions on how many rooms need to stay open. It freezes in Minnesota very intense. I mean, Minnesota, Wisconsin very intensely, just like Iowa. Well, we have to shut down certain rooms because pipes can burst. So
Yep.
we winterize, and it's been really, really crazy, honestly.
That is insane. So I wanna be fully transparent with you. You said there's a lot of investors or hosts out there when you ask them about the boutique hotels, they're like, I would love to do a
Uh-huh.
boutique hotel someday. That's this guy. But what
Yeah.
but what we always try to do with our properties is that unique spin on it. So we have a place out in
Uh-huh.
Ohio currently that just has 5 cabins on it. 3 of them are very just old school mom and pop cabins that we had plans originally to renovate and just make them stand out. And then we built 2 tiny little A-frames on the backside of the property. We are actually trying to come up with this concept of what we're calling a pavilion. And my business
Mm.
partner saw this when he was out. I think it was in Washington. It was 6 hotel rooms above it was a brewery down below. So there were 6
Cool.
Airbnb rooms up top, and then you could walk down to the brewery restaurant, things like that. So we are looking at a chunk of land or a portion of that property to knock down one of the old cabins because I mean it does decent, but it's it's very much just a cabin and
Yeah.
knock that down and do this like boutique hybrid concept where we have 6 rooms up top, but then down below is this wide open space with a container pool, pickleball court, giant hot tub. Think glass garage doors that open up. You can go
Mhm.
inside, maybe get a hot dog stand or a burger cart that comes out regularly, and
Yeah.
guests get to utilize that. But we are
Uh-huh.
going through a process of trying to get that refinanced, and the property today is considered a commercial asset. So the trailing 12 that you
Mhm.
mentioned is so critical. We were, I will say,
Uh-huh.
it was probably 3 or 4 months ago. Someone said T12, and I'm just like, I'm
Didn't
assuming
know
it
what it was.
has to do with 12 months. I don't know what the T stands for, and found that out. And now now I hear it everywhere. It's like one of those things where
Uh-huh.
you see a certain type of car
You
and then
see
you
the
see it
white car?
everywhere. Yeah. Oh
Uh-huh.
yeah. And now I
Yeah.
hear T12 once and I hear everyone talking about, the trailing 12. So, but
Yeah, I actually okay, you telling me about that. Like I'm trying to teach people like this is what a T12 means. So cuz I talk about this jargon because I'm excited that I finally know what the hell I'm talking about
yep.
because it has taken a little while. Like I didn't know how to do motel stuff and obviously I know how to learn now. And I feel like it's really interesting this concept. So you probably went to college. Actually, I have no
I did.
idea. Did you go to college?
I
Okay,
did go
cool.
to
I
college.
went
Iowa State.
Okay, I went to college as well. And it's so interesting because I have friends that went to school for real estate, they went to school for hospitality, they went to school for tourism, like all this stuff. And it's so interesting how we roundabout get to these places because I didn't go to school for real estate. I went to school for like communication studies, like literally how we talk to other people, small group communication, mediation, like that kind of stuff. So we think about this stuff. And my motel mentor, also didn't like he was in the military. He's incredible. I actually don't even know if he went to college, but like he's super smart. I guess it doesn't matter because he owns like 7 motels. So I guess that kind of obviously shows you that somebody can do this stuff. But it's so interesting to think that we have people that literally go to school to run hotels and then someone like me stumbles into it and I'm just like, yeah, I can figure this out because I totally can. I mean, short-term rentals, like all this stuff, but we have this weird hybrid investor nowadays that it's like it used to be like owning a hotel. Like if you told me when I was 15 that you're gonna own a motel someday, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like there
Uh-huh.
is literally no way. I'm not going to school for stuff like that. That's not what I want. So there's this weird hybrid of human beings that it's like, hey, I didn't go to school for this. I don't know how to do it. I've never dreamed of having a motel. And now we're all doing it and we're learning it in a weird, I feel like we're learning it by experience in a different way than what is typical for an American societal person. Because somebody else would be like, yeah, I want to run a motel or a hotel. They would go to school for it. They would get a job doing that. And then they would do it. And then they would never think to buy their own hotel. So we're doing it like this weird way in the back door of like, yeah, I totally want to own that piece of real estate. Like the food and beverage stuff you're talking about. Like you're talking about a brewery, which means food and beverage, which means different regulations. And you could get a food and bev person, like it's fine, like you
Right.
could easily get a proprietor that's going to do that kind of stuff. But I find it to be so interesting that we get to these, like I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur and now I absolutely am. Like I like ready or not, here it comes, like I'm here. And you might have thought the exact same thing, like how you got into this. And I find it to be just so fascinating that we get to these places in such a roundabout journey way of like however the universe decided that this is going to happen for one of us, and then we just learn how to do it, and weird. It works because, you just work hard at it. I don't know. Just
Yeah.
like something I've noticed lately.
Well, it's so true, and I think it's the biggest piece of that is just getting into the game. Like everyone, I know it's
Mhm.
cheesy. Everyone always says just take action, but it's such simple
It's
and
true.
practical advice where it's like you just have to get in and you have to fail and you have to figure it out. That's the best way to learn. You can read all the books, listen to all the
Mhm.
podcasts, but if you sit and say, "Well, I'm going to wait till rates go down," unfortunately, you're never going to get in because the time comes next year
Nope.
and the rates aren't going to be as low as you thought, or something happened in life,
Yeah.
and you're still going to continue to wait and sit on the sidelines. And I mean,
Uh-huh.
it does totally change with what you plan to do within the real estate investing space. Because when I got started,
Mhm.
I was reading through stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to be a flipper. And I'm like, I don't. And then I read into it and got into it more. I'm like, I
Yes.
couldn't be a flipper. And then I'm like, oh, I can't remember what else I was going to do. Oh, I was going to do a bunch of burrs. And I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't start there. And then short
Mhm.
term rentals kind of landed in my lap. And for my plan for short term rentals is like, great, I love going to the beach and these cool places. So I'm going to get properties all along the coast. I'm going to go Texas. I'm going to have them in Florida. I'm gonna like, these are going to be
Yeah.
just great. Like all these beach houses that I get to visit. Quickly realizing,
No.
got my first beach house. Those things are hard from an upkeep perspective. And hurricanes, like it's
Mhm.
insanity. And so again, that plan pivoted to where now I feel like I've really caught my stride in the unique space. It was one of those things that I always had in the back of my head of like, I really want to do this. And
Mhm.
I will say the biggest piece of advice that I have for that is just vocalize it to people. Whether you talk to someone and they maybe aren't as interested in it, but more than likely they know someone who shares that same interest and same passion. And that's what
Mhm.
happened to me when I met my business partner. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, I've also wanted to do the same thing." We meshed, and that just totally has taken off since then. So it's vocalizing it, but like
Yeah.
I said, you just got to get in the game. You got to jump in with both feet, fail a little bit, figure it out. That's
Mhm.
the best way to do it. Sounds cheesy, but it's so true. It's so true.
It's totally true. Just take some action. You gotta buy something to figure out that you don't like it. Like, I used to flip houses. That wasn't for me either, but there's no way I would have known if I didn't at least try and go through those knocks and then get to
Right.
where I am.
Getting the reps in, which is so critical.
Mhm.
So I want to pivot a little bit here. You mentioned you have a podcast, and I think you also have a community called Tribe Builders, correct?
Yeah, yeah, I do have a podcast, and the podcast is called Tribe Builders, and I eventually am going to build some kind of community around it. I already have a community. I just talk about my community and how incredible it is, and like how I don't know, this is how I get so many things accomplished because I don't know how to run a motel. So, I mean, now
Yep.
I'm starting to, by the way, like I'm not trying
Yeah,
to
you're
tell
learning.
people like I'm an
You're
absolute
learning.
idiot, but yeah, and I do probably know more than I would give myself credit for, but I just go to somebody else who knows how to run a motel and I just ask him and he tells me and then I do my version of whatever that is. It's
Right.
awesome.
You put your spin on it. So
Yeah.
very nice. So Tribe Builders. What is the podcast about? What's the gist of Tribe Builders? Just I mean, building
Yeah, so
a tribe, I assume. But
yeah, so the podcast is a mix of people on it. Sometimes it's people that have built their own masterminds. They've literally like gotten their own tribe through or built a tribe for other people to even plug into. And those people like how they built the tribe, how they even came about it, those kinds of things. And then on the flip side, it's people that just have really great tribes that join masterminds that find like ways to do things. Like I want to point out to people that your tribe is really, really important. The people that you spend the most time with, that is the thing that's how much money you're going to make. That's the kind of stuff you're going to talk about, the kind of stuff you're going to think about. It's really, really important. And I think people read about that all the time. They're just like, you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with. But as I've gotten further into real estate, it is 100% reality. Because if I'm hanging out with these people that still like to go to the bar every single night, not to say anything bad about them, I don't care, but their goals are very, very different. So now I align myself with people that like want to do crazy things. Like I know people who like own 1,000 houses, and some people that's not even for me. Like I don't want 1,000 houses, but you have a conversation with somebody that has 1,000 houses, they have different problems from somebody that has one short-term rental. So if you want to go and achieve something like this motel thing, like I didn't own a motel, now I own a motel or a piece of a motel, and I hang out with motel people. That's like what we talk about a few times a week. So when you surround yourself, like when you're making your tribe in your business, it's about like those people and how they can help you and how you talk about best practices. Because you can always, I don't want to say complain, you can talk about your challenges and your wins with your spouse, with your family, with your best friend from home, but they're going to just be like, oh, that's crazy. Like, what do you mean the guest started this thing on fire? But if you talk to a short-term rental person, they're like, oh man, that sucks. Like, I understand what's happening. This is what I did. This is the best practice. This is how you're going to deal with insurance, like all of this stuff. Like, you're surrounding yourself with these kinds of people. And it also gives you a crazy check, because I don't know how many people I talk to in short-term rentals, because I do a little bit of coaching. So when I'll talk to some people, they're just like, they're going to tell me like all these things, and I'm going to say, yeah, this is normal short-term rental stuff. This is like, I mean, it's not just you. And you feel like we put ourselves on these islands because we're working hard, we're trying to do this thing, we don't have time to do all this stuff or to make friends or whatever it is. But when you make those friends, you all of a sudden have best practices, you're calmer, because seriously, the setting on fire thing is a real thing. Like, I know somebody who has a place in Oregon, and like, they literally have to put in their agreement, you cannot bait the bears, because you have to tell people you cannot leave meat out on the porch to get the bears to come in. It's illegal. Like, you can't do stuff like these are like reality things that we go through. And when you're only going through them yourself, you think, oh my god, what the heck is going on with society? But when you hang out with other people that it's going on to them too, you calm down and you're like, okay, now I know how to pivot. Now I know how to deal with these kinds of situations. So I feel like for me, tribes have been like the most important thing. Like, I didn't know how to flip a house. Are you kidding? Like, I knew eventually how to buy a house, and then I knew how to raise the money for the house, and then I knew how to, okay, like, hire the contractors. Like, all that stuff is a process that I didn't go to school for, but I'm really good at learning by experience. So I find the people that have already learned, and it's like, if I could not get sued because I learned how somebody else got sued for this thing, and they've been in litigation for 3 years, and like they have somebody else's money on the deal, like these are all reality things. So being able to talk to other people about them is really important. And you can find that by, like, you can build your own. You can join a mastermind. I feel personally like paying to play is way better. You're going to get better information. I just got off a podcast episode with a guy that said, I mean, he's considering one that's 100 grand a year. He usually pays 20 to 40 per mastermind that he joins. And he's like, it's because of the people that won't pay that. He's like, I don't want to hang out with the people that will not pay for the $40,000. And that elevates the people that are around you. Like, you want to make $1 million a year, then you need to hang out with people and act like you're going to make $1 million a year. Like, you can't say like, hey, can you send me that calendar invite again? Or can you remind me 5 minutes before this meeting starts? That's not what millionaires do. Like, you need to hang out with people that all like show up. They want to do this stuff too. They want to achieve. And like that, to me, that's all like tribe builders. Oh my God. Like, just, you got to hang out with cool people. And I get to
That
hang out with cool people. So
that's amazing. I love that because, like you said, the cliche, hang out with 5 people is what your net worth will be, and what you're gonna make. And again, it's
Mhm.
no bash or no diss on any family
Mm-mm.
members or any close friends when you talk to them about the short-term rentals. Like, sometimes I'll mention like what's happening, what we're doing, or what our plans are,
Of
and
course.
sometimes I'll
Mhm.
almost get the blank stare. They'll be like, "Oh, nice," and then that's it, right?
And
Like,
that's
it's just
it. Yes.
and
Just don't ask.
but it's not their fault because they're not involved in it. A
Mm-mm.
lot of times they don't know what the follow-up
Mhm.
question is to that. They don't dig into it
Mhm.
deeper, or maybe they don't, maybe
They're
in a
not
sense
interested.
exactly, they're not interested in that,
Yeah,
and
they're
that's
not.
not the world they're involved in. Versus you
Mhm.
surround yourself with people, like you said, that are better than you, and elevate your game to that level. You ask those type
Mhm.
of questions, that conversation can go so far, and it's a matter of connections and networking. And again, it's one of those cheesy things you hear about and you read about, but it's so true once you start doing it. It's like, just talk to people, introduce yourself, make a
Mhm.
connection with people, provide value, be in a community, and it will just amplify everything you're doing, whether it be real estate or anything in life. And we've seen that over and over again. And the mastermind concept is so true. It's one of those pay to play, get involved, surround yourself with the right people. It'll be well
Mhm.
worth the investment, even though, if you go back to your family or other circle you used to hang out with and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to spend $20,000 on a mastermind, their eyes
Yeah.
are going to go like this,
I
and
don't
they're going
I
to be
don't say
like,
things like that anymore.
and it's absolute insanity. But it's one of those where it's like, if you want to elevate and get to the next level, you need to do what's uncommon and what other people aren't doing. So I absolutely love the
Yeah.
the concept of tribe builders. And we ourselves are
Yes.
working to build up a community slowly but surely, and we're starting to get a nice core group of people that are all hopping on
Mhm.
calls weekly and just sharing conversations, stories, strategies, asking questions. That's the biggest thing, is like, we all learn from each other throughout these communities, and it's
Mhm.
so valuable. It's so valuable.
Yeah, it's really good.
So, but that's fantastic. One question for you. So you got the short-term rentals in Minnesota. You got
Mhm.
the motel. I don't know if you've been thinking after the motel, but what's next? What's on the horizon? What are the plans after the motel, or is it just simply, get the motel and then we'll
Uh
move on from there?
Well, we're figuring out like what this motel looks like. What does the longevity look like? Are we gonna buy it ourselves and pay out our partner so she can walk away and go do the stuff that she's doing, or do we want to keep the partnership? And then I like salivate at the idea of a motel in Moab, Utah, because I'm
Oh,
obsessed with Utah.
nice.
And
Yeah.
last year my husband's like, well, "Where's the dream spot?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Where's the dream spot? Like, if we could get a motel anywhere in the world, where would it be?" And I was like, and automatically, I'm like, Moab. So I am definitely like, there's a couple for sale right now. I probably just need to, release it and be like, okay, I'm going to do the analysis on all of these. So I'm hoping that like, I think I'm not even hoping, I'm going to have a Moab motel at some point. I don't know if it's going to be in the next year. I don't know if it's going to be 10 years. I don't care. And then everything else is surrounding tribe builders. Honestly, like I want to
Nice.
do cool things with tribe builders. I, want to speak on more stages and just tell people you need to find your people, because I think sometimes entrepreneurship is so, we're just so heads down, we work our butts off, we don't even look up sometimes. And I think the more you build your tribe, the more you can kind of see that other people do it this way, we can have best practices, that kind of stuff. So I just want to talk about tribe builders like all the time. I think it's so fun
Nice.
to just get to go and hang out with my friends, like communities. And we do some retreats every single year. Same thing, you just gather people and you see what are they really good at and how can I learn from them. And then we do accountability groups too. So like it's just like the whole ecosystem that goes around it is pretty fun.
That's cool. The concept of a retreat is cool. I've never actually went on a retreat myself or hosted
Oh
one within our community. I've went to conferences. I went to the SGR Wealth Conference out in Nashville twice,
yeah.
and that was just like wow. Like you want to talk about getting in a room with a lot of people who are a lot better than
Hmm.
you and excelling in certain areas. Like that is a very cool conference to go to. I don't know if they're doing any more in the future. I think it's to be
I'm not
determined.
sure either.
But
Yeah, but so a retreat is that on hyperdrive. So if you want to dig in and like, I mean, some retreats are all different. They could be 10 people, it could be up to 30 people. But if you want to dig into your business and you want help, like you do things called hot seats, and masterminds have this, to me, this is all like mastermind jargon. So a hot seat is when Tanya has a problem with hiring. I don't know how to hire, I don't know who to hire, or I can't retain these employees, like for example. So I'm going to go into this room and there's going to be 20 other business people or 10 other business people. And they're going to tell you, here, this is how you could do this. Or you literally workshop it with other people. And then you also learn what other people are really good at, their strengths and weaknesses. So when I need to figure out like some creative financing, I have 3 people I call and they're from 3 different masterminds that I've been involved in. And I go to them for advice because I need to know, how can I structure this? What does this look like? And these are the reasons that you need to do networking and things like that. So a retreat can get you in a room with those people. Like if you could pay $4,000 and you could be in a room with 10 other people that all have businesses that range from $500,000 a year in gross profit up to, 4 million. That's how you would do that. Like some people question, well, how am I even supposed to make these friends? You pay to go and I pay for friends all the time and I'm freaking fine with it. I can maintain them for free, but I pay for them to begin with, because being in a room with those kinds of people that know what they're doing, like that's what's going to elevate you. And it all comes back to the tribe.
yeah, that
I
is
didn't even
fantastic.
plan that. It just all comes back to like, that's why I would do a retreat. Is like, you want help in your business. You want to see how awesome somebody else is and how they can help you. Well, hang out with them for 3 days. I promise you're going to figure it out.
Yeah, that's all. So, with the retreat, do you stay at like one of your own places, or do you guys rent out a place, or
We rent play. I don't ask very many people to come to Minnesota. If it's summertime, I'm totally cool with bringing people to Minnesota, but no, I would
yeah,
never ask like all my California friends to come here in January. Oh my god,
you
I
just
would
got to
get
give them
so
a
many
taste of the
complaints.
Midwest. You got to be like, come on,
No.
come see what
No.
Minnesota is all about.
No, we
Uh,
honestly, like, it depends on who's coming. If I already
right.
have like 5 people committed and they're, in this area, I might pick spot that way. Otherwise, I pick like a warmer climate, and I usually pick the house. Like, what's the house look like? Is there enough space to, hang out around a kitchen table? Because that's where a lot of masterminding happens. Is there a big
Yep.
enough couch that we can all sit on, and then have a TV to like go through some PowerPoints if somebody has them? Like, I typically pick that, and then I make sure that it's within 20 minutes of an airport. So,
Yeah, no, that's smart. We are planning or hoping to have a retreat. I would say here in the next year or so, once we get that
mhm.
community built up and off the ground a little bit more. But we, since we're
Yeah.
focusing on a lot of these unique stays, we thought it would be so cool to bring a core group of people out to these unique properties and be able to actually see them
Yeah.
firsthand and experience them. Maybe it's walking the
Hmm.
property, maybe it's like calling out and understanding like why certain components were focused on and the just details of these properties, because it's one
Yeah.
thing to see it in pictures and you can capture a property every which angle, but it's a
Hmm.
lot different when you're on site and you're actually seeing it and experiencing it. So more
Yeah.
to come with that. We'll see what happens there, but I love the concept of a retreat,
Awesome.
and whether I go on one before we create one, will time will tell. So
Yeah, going to experience it. Well, you just see how different people are too. Like, I mean, there's a lot of logistics that come in with a retreat that you don't think of, but when you see somebody else and how they handle it, that's also a really fun way to do it. So
yeah.
it's cool,
Yeah,
cool.
no, that's fantastic. So you mentioned the Moab Hotel. So I know you said you're building up the tribe builders thing, but are you thinking doubling down on the motel hotel space, or is that just kind of like the long term plan? Then what happens in between there from a deals and real estate perspective is kind of, you just let it take you where it will.
Yeah, so this is something I've learned from a mastermind that I was in. I was in seven figure flipping. It was the first big mastermind I'd ever been a part of. I realized I am really good at getting caught up in other people's goals. Like, as in, oh my God, I'm caught up in other people's goals, like houses, or I want to do this. I really just watching people on Instagram, you can get caught up in their goals and think, oh, I really want that. I realized I don't want to scale. I don't want like big, huge things. Like, if I can scale tribe builders, I'm in, but I don't know what that even looks like. Like, there's always going to be an element of me. So it doesn't, I don't know what that would look like. But for real estate, I don't want a ton of stuff. Like, I don't need a shit ton of money. Honestly, it's me and my husband. We like to travel. So I want a lifestyle business that fits in. I don't know what that even looks like. Like, there's always going to what I want every single day to look like. I'm not interested in leaving this giant legacy that more money I make, which is really
That's awesome.
really neat.
I love that.
So yeah, so if a deal comes in front of me and it works, I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, is this a hell yeah? If it's a hell yeah, I'm gonna go do it. If it's not, then I don't. So I don't hustle super hard to go look for things. I really want the Moab hotel, so I am going to actually put effort into that. But I feel like I could have two motels. We'll see how like all of it, like all the operations shake out and how that looks and how it fits into my life. And then it'll be okay, yeah, I can make this work. Let's do one hotel, like three hotels, and then we would stop. I really like my short term rentals. I love being able to host people. I love the stories that come out of it. I love like all of those things. So it's just kind of making sure, okay, what feels good, what looks good. So for me, I've also noticed that anytime I plan a goal, I can't do 5-year, 10-year goals because honestly, it just goes in ways that you would never expect. Like, I like to know, I know what, the next 5 to 10 years will probably look like, but are you kidding? 10 years is so long away. Like, I might not live in America in 10 years. I don't know. Like, I love to travel. We both want to live in Costa Rica someday. Like, there's just all kinds of things. So I kind of don't plan too much about that. It's just like, if I buy a place in Moab, that means I get to go live in Moab for like a year. That's the
Which is
reason that I'm
awesome.
like, oh, let's do that. Yeah, I know. And then get something up off the ground, like kind of figure everything out, and then go do the next thing. So for me, it's just at the moment, it's definitely a motel, and then we'll just see where it goes. Like, I also really dream of having industrial properties. I worked for CBRE for a really long time, which is a really big commercial real estate company, and industrial seems to me to be the coolest. which means it's like warehousing, manufacturing, like it's not storage in the same way that everybody knows about self-storage. It would be
Yep.
storage, like big, huge racks with like a company, like a warehousing company. That to me sounds great. Like I want to drive on Highway 94 in Minneapolis and St. Paul, and I want to like point out at a big, huge building that's like 100,000 square feet and be like, that name on the side of the building, yeah, that's mine. Because, and I'm just going to name it something really silly, and that's going to be, I mean, not super silly. It's going to be like an inside joke or something, but, and that's going to be mine. Like I'm going to be like, yeah, the Rooneys own that, and we just rent it out to somebody. Like I think that would be super fun. So someday that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's so we had and someone will probably steal this now, which is fine. You can take it. I think the ship has sailed on this, but my business partner had always said he wanted to start an LLC. It was called HSTY, and that stood for Holy Shit, That's Yours LLC. Like,
Yeah. Oh my
isn't it?
god. I kind of want to tell you about my business, my other business name now. So I have a company called Baff's Real Estate, and
Okay.
now it's called Best at Finding Solutions because really that's what we do. Like it was our flipping company. It was some consulting that I do. I still do commercial real estate consulting too, but. I was actually at a CrossFit gym, and I used to do the 6 a.m. class, and we used to call each other the morning sharks. So we would always send those memes that said, you know, you got to be a fucking shark in the morning, and you need to get up and you chase stuff and you just work hard. And the whole entire concept of me and my friends were like, it was that, like we were chasing things that we needed to. We did what we needed to do. It wasn't like this gross sharky thing. It was more of this is the mentality we need to keep going. So my company is called Baff's Real Estate, and it means be a fucking shark.
That is amazing.
I don't tell banks that anymore because they're like, unless it's a banker that I'm friends with, they're like, what are you talking about? So my husband actually recoined it, Best at Finding Solutions, and it was great. But so I'm the same. Your partner and me would get along so well. So I'm just
It's
like, yeah, holy shit, that's mine.
that. Yeah, I love that. I'm glad we're not the only ones thinking like that. But
No, we totally all have weird little inside jokes and we think are funny because we see it on like, our W-9, or I mean our
uh
EIN. And it's
yep,
just like, oh, that's what that is. Like I've seen all kinds of people do stuff like this because when you get a W-9, like when somebody works for you, you get their W-9 so that you can give them, or is it a yeah, you get their
yep.
W-9 so you can send them a 1099 later. And you see these business names and you're like, I know what you got going on.
It's too funny.
I
Yeah.
love you guys. This is awesome.
You got to be creative as a business owner, right? You got to have fun with
Well,
it.
we got to get our excitement somewhere, and we have plenty of excitement, but these are just like easy excitement.
Yeah. No, but back to that point that you mentioned on doing what like you like enjoy doing and love doing, and maybe just kind of
Mhm,
letting things take you where they will. One thing that we've
mhm,
noticed and we preach to people is, at first when you start out, you always are like, man, like there's no opportunities. Like, when am I going to get my first deal? When am I going to get into the game? When am I going to get into this? And for whatever reason, what happens is once you get that first deal, then it's just flooded with like 50 or 60 after that. To then you're overwhelmed with deals. And then you almost
mhm,
get to the point where it's like, then you have to be very strategic because you can't, I mean, you could, best of luck to you if you do, if you say yes to 50 or 60 deals. But, the
mhm.
deals come in and then it becomes, you need to align those deals with your purpose, your passion, what really
Ah,
drives you and what you love. Because we had, I don't know, probably in the last month or two, we've had about 5 to 7 deals come in, and we were talking. It's like, okay, we really need to sit down. It's like we would love to do all five to seven just because they're deals and they're opportunities, but really take a step back and think about it.
mhm,
Does this align with where I want to be and where I want to go? And do I love it? Or is it
mhm.
just a money play? Because if it's a money play, all right, great. Like you can make
You're
a
gonna
quick
hate it.
buff of it, but you're gonna hate it. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. So
Yeah, those are really important things to know. It's like you need to be open for your first deal. Don't be desperate. You need to like you just got to be careful. And honestly, sometimes people need the lesson. I've
oh
had
yeah.
plenty of lessons in my real estate career. It's like, oh, there's the lesson. Okay, that
Hmm.
sucks, and then you write a $12,000 check.
Oh
Just happens. Like this
yeah.
stuff is like totally reality in real estate. You can win big, but you can lose big too. So you just need to be smart and careful and calculated. And yeah, don't rush your first deal, whatever it is. Don't
Yeah,
be desperate.
I would 100% agree with that. You can make any deal look fantastic on your own spreadsheet. You
Mhm.
can make the numbers look
Sure
how you
can.
want, and
Mhm.
and we did that in our first deal, and it wasn't a bad deal. We broke even. We took advantage of a cost segregation study, the bonus depreciation, and
Mhm.
that was the win on that property. But from a cash flow
Mhm.
perspective, we were told one thing, and the property just did not perform. And we took it
Mhm.
as like, hey, we got in the game. We learned a lot. We learned a lesson, but we knew then and there, it's like, okay, we need to pivot to something else that aligns with where we're going. And we couldn't be happier that we made that decision. But it's just, you got to be able to make those decisions. You may have to fall on your face at first, but you'll figure it out. And it's the best lesson you'll learn, because you more than
Yep.
likely, you're not going to make that mistake again.
It's just like a semester in college. Like last year, we when we walked away from this deal, honestly, like we had $18,000 into the deal at that point between earnest money and inspections and an appraisal. But that to okay, well, that was a college education. That's how you should look at all of this stuff. Like every time you lose money and gain money, the gaining money is really fun, but the losing money, those are lessons that you have to have. Like every single time you do something in any business, you have this lesson, and now nobody gets to take that away from you. So it's not really a failure. It's not, I don't regret stuff like that. It's just, you just move on with it, and you're like, oh, cool. Now I always know I have to check this very specific thing at every house I always buy. Like
Yep.
that's how we learn, unless you want to take a, a home inspection course. I don't know. People can do
Yeah.
it.
No, it's so true. But well, Tanya, we have two closing questions we like to ask our guests, and
Cool.
the first one, and I apologize, maybe you're a reader, maybe you're not a reader, but what is your favorite book that has had a huge impact on your life or your career?
I am a reader. I
Okay,
have
good,
read
good.
every single day for 2,096 days, and I know that because I do a miracle morning, and I'm on like 5 or 6 years now. So
That's
I read out of a
awesome.
business book every single day, even if it's only a page. And this is just some weird thing that I do. But I did write this one down, The Alchemist by Paulo
Oh,
Coelho.
I
I don't
love
know
that
how to
book.
say
I
that.
love that
Every
book.
time I pick that thing up, it's that's what I love about life, is like you can pick things up at different stages of your life and you'll get something completely different, because you might be in a fitness stage, or you might be in your mom stage, or you might be in your business stage, or you might be in your trying to get a raise stage, whatever it is. Every time you pick something up, like even fiction books creepily do this to me now, that I'll like get like a random little lesson, because I do read a lot of fiction too. And I'm like, oh, I could totally use this here. But Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, I try to pick it up, I think like once or twice a year now. And every time like something beautiful comes of it, that I'm like, oh, like there's certain things that you need to read at certain times that hit you at different times. Because
Hmm.
the lessons that I learned out of that book 4 years ago, completely different today. Like my life is completely different. So I think it's just one of those books that just makes me go, oh, yeah, and it's a super, like, it's a parable, it's a short read, I just love everything about it, so that's my jam.
Yeah, I read that book earlier this year, and it had been on my list for a while. And it was one of those where
Oh,
I was going after books that were more like practical in what we were doing. And I was like, you know what? I got to read
yeah.
it. Everyone's talking about it. And I think I was
Uh-huh.
in like 2 days of reading it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm hooked. Like
Yep.
I
You have to
absolutely hooked.
I feel like that book comes at when you need it. You pick up and
Yes.
start reading that book when you need it. Like there is a nudge that comes out of the universe, and I do think about stuff like this a lot. Is that when I pick up a book, I might stop reading a book completely halfway through, and then I'll pick it back up and be like, this is why that wasn't the time that I needed to hear that message. And I think The Alchemist is probably a big one for me for that. It's just like, oh,
That's
I should
I
probably
love
do that.
I love that. I love that. Go read that book. It is definitely a
Oh,
game changer.
yep,
So,
it's so good. Ugh.
and then the second question, what is the one thing that you know now that you wish you knew when you were 20?
Uh, I think the reason I'm at where I'm at is because everything happened as it was supposed to. There's no way I'd be able to handle the life I have at 20, but I would probably at least give a nudge, like it doesn't, like it's okay if somebody doesn't like you. You don't have to be for everyone. And I've had to have that lesson over and over again every year for the last like 6 or 7 years. And it just means like where you're comfortable, where you feel like you can be vulnerable with other humans, like that is the spot that you want to be in. You want to be around people that you can be honest with, that you can be your true self. And it's okay that not everybody likes you. Like there are people in the short-term rental industry that I do not like. And I think about it and I'm like, that's cool. They're just not for me. They are fours. Like I don't always love Brotown. I can hang with Brotown totally fine. Like I love some of the people that I hang out with that are 100% Brotown. And sorry if you don't know what that means, but I'm not going to explain it. But it's okay to hang out with those people, and it's okay to not. It's okay to like go find the people that you are comfortable with. Like I talk to short-term rental hosts every single day. Like truly, I've talked to a couple of them every day for the last 3 years. Like we text about something short-term rental related or like life. But it's okay for not everyone to like you. Like I'm not for everyone. Somebody sang that. I love that song because I'm like, I'm not for everyone. I swear a lot. I have a lot of crazy energy. Like I believe very intensely in the belief system that I have that's like in my soul, and I talk about it, and I will tell people how it is, like how I see it. If somebody is picking on themselves a lot, I will tell them like, hey, I just met you, but you keep like dragging yourself down. I'm a very honest person, and I know I'm not for everyone because of that. And it's
I
okay. Like ugh.
That's awesome. I love that, and I love the not dragging yourself down. That's so true. And there are times where I think there's a lot of self doubt within people, whether that was instilled in them at a young age, or they just doubt like that they're able to do it. And it's just you gotta be different, stand out, and just essentially at the end of the day be you, because it's gonna allow you to surround yourself with the people that you were meant to be surrounded with. So that's
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah, and I mean, how much more fun is life when you're, like, happy every day? Like, I don't know,
Right.
I see some of these miserable people and I'm like, "What? Why? Like, what?" I don't
What?
understand why you would wanna live like that every day. Like, I get up every day and I'm generally freaking happy. Like, I have a cool fucking life, and I
Right.
have a lot of life to live, by the way. I'm, like, 38. Statistically speaking, I will live till, I don't know, 75 or something. That's like I've got more than 30 years to freaking live. Are you kidding me? If you don't think the best is yet to come, you need to figure your shit out.
Yeah.
Because man, life is long. Like you can reinvent yourself every freaking year if you want. I could have 30 more identities. I'm not saying to go steal identities. I'm just saying like you could change how you are. Like you could all of a sudden become a CrossFitter, and then you could become a rower, and then I mean, you probably can't become a Simone Biles because she's incredible, but you can become a short-term rental investor. You could become an industrial person. Like there's just so many things. Like freaking
Yeah.
a, don't be
Go go
miserable.
go out and enjoy life. It's so true too. It's like,
Yeah.
don't wait till you're 65 to then go enjoy life. I know some
No.
people, again, this is not a bash on anyone that has a W job and loves it. If the biggest
Of
thing for
course
me
not.
is like, you have won in life if you love what you're doing, whether that's going to a nine
Oh,
to five job
yes.
and retiring when you're 65, or whether that's doing real estate investing and not having a 9 to 5 job and being able to travel and do what you want when you want. Like it's just a matter of what makes you happy. And at the end of the day, if you're happy, I always say you've won at life. It doesn't matter how much money you make. You can
Mhm.
make $10,000 a year, be the happiest person ever. You won. That's it. You won at life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, totally agree. 100%. Like this is just like everybody should just go find a little bit of joy. Like what makes you happy, go hang out with that person. If they fire you up, then go hang out with them more. Like that's like I had to have that conversation with my niece. I'm just like, "Well, who makes you happy?" She's talking about a friend from high school who lives like 2 hours away, and I was like, "Well, when was the last time you talked to her?" "Well, we don't talk anymore." I'm like, "So text her." I literally made her text her right then, and they hung out 3 weeks later. I'm like, "If she makes you happy and you had all kinds of fun, then go hang out with that person." Like it can be that
it's
easy. It's
it's
not
spot
always that
on.
easy, but it can be.
Yeah, you got to push yourself, and like you said, take the action and surround yourself with the people that make you happy. So I love that.
Yes. Yeah.
But well, perfect, Tanya. I appreciate you coming on the show. For people who are listening, where can they get in touch with you?
I'm mostly on Instagram. That's my spot. I do have a Facebook too, but Tanya Rooney MN. My name is spelled Tanya Rooney and then MN for Minnesota because Tanya Rooney on Instagram is not available and she also doesn't answer her messages or use her account. And I'm not bitter at all. So you can find me there. Otherwise, I do have a website, tanyarooney.com. That's where you can find Tribe Builders. I'm Tribe Builders podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, like all of those places. That's kind of the spot you can go and stalk away.
That's amazing. All
Yeah.
right. Well, that does it. Another episode of the Hideaway Show. She's Tanya Rooney. I'm Jordan Holmes. As always, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.